It's a high chaos ball, a wobbler. Oh, Reynolds, favoured by the bounce. He's going to turn it round the body, and he's got enough on it.
Hi, welcome to Before the Bounce. Plenty to get through on the show. Hope you can stay with us. I want to talk about Clarko. Is he having too much influence on the rules? 2 wins in 6 days in Adelaide. Are St Kilda the real deal? Will Carlton make the top 8 this season? Are we responsible for stocking the Prince Alfred juggernaut? Who knows? And I tell you, the SANFL, it is bloody fantastic. As I welcome Greg Anderson to the show.
Plenty happening. There's plenty happening.
All right, mate, let's get through it. You are the master. Is Clarko having too much to say?
Well, it's very interesting that Wayne Carey has come out and said that he's saying too much.
Yep.
They're former teammates, so it's I was a bit surprised, but I do understand it that when you're losing and it's disappointing, just look at your own team. I think it's questionable when you're actually blaming umpires and talking about opposition players and opposition teams. And I think that's very questionable that he's come out that way rather than just looking at his own backyard.
It's interesting when the coach of the opposition comes out and says we don't make a comment on players from other teams.
Yeah,
so it's almost kind of been an unwritten rule, really, hasn't it?
It is, of course. Yeah, of course it is. And for Wayne Carey to come out like he did, and he was very, very strong about it.
Well, it's the second time. So we saw Clarko early in the season come out and talk about the tackling rule. There seemed to be a change the next week in that. And I heard Malcolm Blight, and I respect Blight. I think he's a great coach. He came out and said, and I made the same comment a couple of weeks ago, that when coaches start commenting during the year, they're normally doing it to protect their team. That's their focus, not to protect the game. So I think if you're going to listen to coaches, have a listen at the end of the season when it's all over. During the season, just put it to bed.
But do supporters really want to hear whinging? He's representing the club, your club that you're barracking for. Right, what's the coach got to say? And he's talking about umpires and opposition. Well, you know what? I'm one of your supporters. I want to hear what you think about our team after a game like that. That's where I think those press conferences, they're supposed to be for the supporters. It's not about your agenda. And so I'm a bit like Wayne Carey. I'm pretty disappointed in how he's
sometimes you're frustrated. So I defend Clarko on that one. Sometimes you come up and you're frustrated, and so that's the first thing that's swirling around.
I coached South Adelaide. I was frustrated. Let me tell you.
All right, the other one. Well, I've suggested this many times, and not that I'm the master of suggestions, but you watch the tennis. When you go to the press conference in tennis, they have someone that stands there and says, "No, that question's irrelevant. Not answering that question." So you can only pretty much get the questions that are relevant.
I think that's really important. I think that's really important, and I've.
So the AFL should do it.
Yeah, definitely. I actually noticed a little bit in politics at the moment, and especially over COVID-19 when they speak to Scott Morrison, the camera actually goes onto the journalist.
Yep.
And he actually names them. So you've got to have what's the word that if you've got to make a statement and you want an answer, well. Put your reputation on the line as well.
Yeah.
Don't just put it all on the coach.
I agree with that. And I reckon they're even a little bit further than that. So Essendon have played the Power, and then suddenly something's happened in the West Coast game, and they asked the coach, what did you make of Nick Natanui in the West Coast game? And I don't know.
Yeah, well, you don't know.
And it's not his place, or something's happened. Certainly went through the Cousins era. Many of the coaches were asked, what did you make of the Ben Cousins situation?
I thought Stephen Trigg was outstanding when he took over the role as media director.
Yep.
So he actually spoke probably more than Malcolm Blight.
Yes.
And it just seemed that the balance was fantastic because Triggy was brilliant in front of the camera, of course, and he done lots with it.
You're not pushing Triggy to take over Chapman's job, are you?
No, not at all. I think it could even be to that degree where the coaches under the pump these days, and we know that. We know that. Let's take them away from that, and let's get a media director to take those questions on behalf of the club.
I agree with you.
Work for the club.
So the game finishes, and there's a lot of emotion around the game. Coach goes in, addresses the team. Sometimes he doesn't even have time to do that. Then the people grab him and give him the stats. And now you're out doing the press conference. So if you've lost, you know what it's like. There's some raw emotion in amongst all of that. Again, I can defend Clarko on the raw emotion.
Yep.
But then on the same weekend, Ken Hinkley has to front the media, and many comments were made after the game about the umpiring and that.
Yeah.
And Ken kind of steered away from it. He made one close to it, but he let it go, and you kind of go, well, maybe that shows. Also, one sitting on the top of the ladder at the moment. So it's a little bit easier.
It's a lot easier. It is easier, but also, you know, the scrutiny that Clarkson's under, certainly that's had the domino effect on the other coaches.
Oh, no question.
Saying, well, I don't want my ex-teammate,
Yep.
you know, superstar, now the media saying, you know what, you're not handling your press conferences well at all,
Yeah.
you know, and wake up to it,
You're on
basically.
Wayne Carey saying that. Can St Kilda continue to dominate? Can they be a finals team this year?
Well, 2 weeks in a row away in Adelaide.
Yep.
Have never won there before. Going back, pack their bags with a couple of nice wins. It's a fantastic effort.
Well, we were
It's a
talking about this.
fantastic
We
effort.
talked about this before we came on, and you know we've had this discussion over a couple of years. I was a big rat for Ratton. I thought he was treated unfairly by Carlton,
I know.
and I thought if he can get back into it, we'll see what kind of coach he is. And of course, he had some difficulties he had
got
to deal with.
because of Malthouse. Malthouse was a big name. He's a big name. Carlton wanted a big name to represent, to coach their club.
Understand.
Ratton took him to the finals after virtually being bottom.
Yep.
Okay, I think he lost 2 and maybe won 1 or 2, whatever the case may be, but they still made some finals footy, which was great, and then just bang, we want Wildhouse, you're out. Went to Hawthorn, done a wonderful job there as 2IC.
Yep.
He's gone to St Kilda and
He's doing a great job.
doing a great job.
I rate anyway, Ratso. I'm glad he's doing well.
Yeah, so me too.
Carlton, you touched on him, of course.
Tig's doing a great job.
Can
You know,
they make the
I
eight?
really question. I thought, you know what? Well, wouldn't they get Ratton back?
Yep.
And they've grabbed Teague, and I thought, well, maybe that's a bit of a questionable move, but wow, he's
doing
done
all
a really
right.
good job.
So-
I mean, he's, Carlton have lost a couple of very close games, of course, and won some some good ones as well. So they're equal eighth.
Yep.
You know, they're knocking on the door. They're doing all the right things. Their younger players are really taking the bull by the horn, and that's all you can ask. You know, and I think the footy at the moment is for the exciting young players.
Yep.
You know, and
Through this period, it's going to be.
Through this period, it's going to be. And King was mentioning that, you know, during some interviews during the week, and I think he's very right with everything changing so much because of COVID-19. And it's I find that the footy's exciting when the young players step up, and that's what we're seeing at the moment. Carlton and St Kilda, and Melbourne at times, a little bit inconsistent. But they're playing some good, exciting footy, and it's really important for the teams.
All right, I want to talk about good, exciting footy. The SANFL. Other than the Eagles right now, who are sitting on top of the ladder and dominating, anyone looks like they can take anyone. We saw Westies get Glenelg last year's premiers. They got them. Norwood look like they've started to find their mojo a bit. North are beating teams.
Last week, and I've seen 2 or 3 games now. I think it's absolutely outstanding, the competition.
Yep.
You know, tough. They are playing for their suburb. And that's what the SANFL is all about. It's got back to our suburb versus yours. There's a little bit of malaise going on. But what I do love, they hold the structure, the full forward and the centre half forward.
Yep.
They're still pushing back, and getting numbers back. But when they do get the ball and they're running forward, it's nice to see the pattern where it's going to go to that centre half forward as a spectator, or it's going to go to the full forward. They're still holding those positions. I love watching the footy. I think it's a really good standard. And there is so many players that should be playing AFL, and we know that. And now they're 26, 27. They're playing. They have leaped the level of their SANFL at the moment. Fantastic.
I want to ask you this question on what you've said, because you like the way they're structured up. And I haven't done every game from the weekend in the AFL, but certainly 6 of the 8 games over the last weekend, the team that scored the most points lost. So now, if you do the numbers, normally you got the most attacking, so you say, well, they should win that. But so I'm just asking you this as a footy question. So the coaches have been smart enough now. We know they're flooding back defensively.
Yep.
They're using the boundary as an extra defender, but they're forcing the teams out wide. So hence the angles for goals are a lot more difficult. When we're going to see a coach eventually do what you're saying, he's going to try and find a way to open it up and come straight through the middle and get those angles better. But isn't it interesting?
I don't want to kick a point.
No.
Today's footy is just like giving a free kick away, because points are points. We can, goals all about they get the ball, they've got the free kick. They don't need to stay in the kick-off line now, so they actually run about 20 metres with the ball. They've kicked it nearly to half forward very quickly. So yes, push them out wide and make them kick from impossible angles.
That's what they're doing.
Kick the points, get it back in as quick as possible. We've got control of the ball again. As you said, it's another defender. They're very smart, these coaches.
They're pretty smart. They'll find a way to beat it. Now, of course, we talked about Prince Alfred last week on the show, saying they're the juggernaut with Prince Alfred. They're exploding. So we put the Anderson curse on them, and straight away Brighton have pantsed them and put them back into the normal.
Brighton are a great. I mean, what a success story from going from the Southern League, who they were very powerful and played against them quite a few times, to going into, I think they lobbed in Div 3, and they've made themselves up in Div 1 over only a couple of years. And they're pretty strong. And I jinxed St. Peter's as well. And what a game! Because I just want to mention you got Flagstaff Hill versus Christie's.
Yep,
2 top sides,
Flagstaff.
right down to the wire. Flagstaff, I didn't expect it. A great win.
Yep.
You got Ross Trevor versus St. Peter's, 2 powerful clubs, and Ross Trevor got over St. Peter's. I was very, very surprised. So there's some great competition
there's some
whether
terrific
it's the Southern
players,
League or the Great Southern League or Div 1. I watched the Div 3 game as well, Flinders Park versus Modbury. 2 points in it at the end. Yeah. And it was tough going. So footy's fantastic at the moment.
We'll get a bit more into that when we get to state of the game, and we'll talk about that. I want to ask you this just quickly before we go to the break. 30 games in 20 days. So we're going to see a game a day at least for the next 20 days on TV. I was driving here thinking, gee whiz, would I watch 20 days of footy? Then I thought, you know what? This is going to rate like you wouldn't believe, because everybody's locked down in Melbourne. It's the most fanatical state for footy. What else they got to do? They're going to watch the footy.
Ninja.
Well, the Australian Ninja. I don't mind the Australian Ninja. No, I'm not knocking that. But initially I was thinking, most people will go, I'm not going to watch. I've got stuff to do. But
you do that, don't you?
You're talking about a football fanatical state with huge numbers.
They can't go to their postcodes at the moment.
Nope, it's going to rate
be sitting in their lounge chairs. They're going to get the old Smith's chips. Nice little beer, and they're going to be sitting on the couch night after night. It is a tough schedule, though. It is a tough schedule.
Now, before we go to the break, we've got to mention Air Diffusion Agencies. Our mate Billy.
Billy's fantastic.
30 years, mate. 30 years Air Diffusion Agencies have been going. Him and Rhonda took it over, and they've built it up to a really, really good business. We appreciate their support, but well done to Billy and Rhonda on 30 years with Air Diffusion Agencies. We'll get to a break. We're off and running. First quarter out of the way. Second quarter coming up. Yes, thanks for staying with us on Before the Bounce, Ando.
There's no show without Ando.
Oh, this is Seinfeld. Honestly.
Stella!
Mate, you remind me of Kramer.
These prep forms are making me thirsty.
You had to get it in, didn't you? You'll be at the soup kitchen next. Great show. It's a great show.
And I've had people come up to me as well. So thank you for that. It is.
Thank you. All right.
Yeah, but it's
there is no show without Ando.
Yeah,
okay, giddy up.
You're going into training on Monday, and your teammates, your supporters, your staff know how much money you're getting. And we know that this happened about a month ago with Mark Rasciuto sort of alluding to Lever getting 800,000, whatever it might have been. How hard is that for a player to come to training on a Monday, knowing that that's been brought up media-wise?
I reckon it's a really difficult one. Certainly if you're playing well enough. If you're a Pendlebury and you're on 800,000, you're the best player and you're dominating, everyone kind of goes, well, he's worth it.
Yeah.
But for the guy who's getting paid a lot more and he's not playing pretty well, it's a pretty tough gig to come into. So I reckon there's 2 parts to it, though. The first one is, are the numbers accurate? So I heard Marsh talking about it, Paul Marsh from the Players Association saying that the figures weren't accurate.
Yeah.
So now bear in mind, if I'm saying he's on 800,000, his contract says he's on 790,999, I'm out by $1. Well, I'm not accurate.
Yeah.
So you've got that in there. But the thing about this, I've always wanted to protect the players, and I know they don't in the States. We see their salaries in the NBA.
Yeah. And we're going down that way.
And we are heading that way. The only thing I'd like to say, if we're going to do that, especially in this corona period where we're asking the players to make sacrifices, I want to see what the administration are doing. I want to see the salaries from the AFL, and I want to see what Gillen's getting and all the other people that work under Gillen. So if you want to put the players' salaries out there, I've got no issue with that.
Put yours as well.
Put yours out as well.
Yeah, and make it even field because it's not fair.
Exactly right. I guarantee you won't be seeing any figures.
Especially when they're going through this next phase of football, when you've got four games in 15 days. That's ruthless for players.
Right.
I think,
and you're asking the players to take a pay cut. So all along, the players have been, they've been fighting the cause. I'd like to hear, if we're expecting the players to take a 25% pay cut, if that's what we're hearing, I'd like to hear the administrators taking a 25% pay cut as well.
It has changed though, hasn't it? I'll never forget, I was travelling down Commercial Road at Port Adelaide, and I was with Craig Bradley, and he had the old Greens Kingwoods in those days. That's Kingswood back in about 83, I think it was 83, and I just said to him, I've got to speak to Port Adelaide about my contract. And he just said, I don't want to know. They never discussed contracts with me. You know, and I think that was how it was for many, many years. You know, even when I was at Essendon, oh, geez, you heard Paul Salmon's on that. Not that you'd ever ask him. No. And it was all just, you know, Chinese whispers sort of situation. Yep. But now it's out in the press. Yeah, look, it's ruthless.
I agree with you. I think most players don't want. I don't want to know.
I wouldn't want to know.
What the teammates are doing. Good on them if they're getting a bit more than me. Well, good on if they're getting a bit less. Whatever. However you negotiated. Yeah, look, I reckon you're right with that one. So it's not something you'd want to.
Not right just on that one, but my segment's right. Don't worry about that. No show without Ando. No show. That's a segment of the night.
Right, that's the quickest second quarter we've ever had in the history of the game. So, have you got anything else? You got anything else you want to show without Ando? Anything? What have you got?
I only got one
segment on
one per week. One topic per week, please.
That is funny. Just quickly though, across the journey for you, did you ever speculate on what you thought your teammates were getting? Do you ever sit with a couple of boys in the bar after a game?
And I want to go back to No Show Van Ando, and when I'm supposed to ask some questions on this one, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Is you walked in tonight.
Yep.
You look like George Costanza with a big latex parka on. I thought we were going to be going like whacking you from side to side. I could believe like the Michelin Man with that big parka he had on.
The sea was angry that day, my
friend. Boy, it certainly was.
Is that timeless? Yes, it is. So let's go to a break. Stay with us. All right, Ando, time to get to the next segment. I know that there was no show without Ando as your favourite one, but we need to get the game of the state. Of course, this one's brought to us by Air Diffusion Agencies, your one-stop air conditioning trade centre. There's branches in Welland, Salisbury and Lonsdale in South Australia. Of course, they're in Queensland and Darwin as well. We've mentioned Billy before earlier in the show. So let's have a look at the Great Southern Footy League, mate. I want to tick to this. After 3 rounds, Langhorne Creek and McLaren remain undefeated. At the other end, my Ponga Sellicks, Goolwa Port Elliot, and the once a very powerful Victor Harbour, which were very powerful, are winless to date. Why?
Victor Harbour were very, very powerful. I think Tony Simons was on about 35, 40 grand. Probably twice as much he ever was at Glenelg. We got Randall Wright, of course, from the old Woodville days. I think he was sneaking around that 25 grand as well.
Wow.
Ross Gibbs. Now he was kicking about. I think he kicked 18, 19 goals. In one game, or just ridiculous amount. He would have been on 50,000. Old Gibbsy, he never got it. The funny thing was that Gibbsy was a back pocket, and he never moved far from that point post in the back line. So he goes in the forward line for Victor, and he never basically left the white the white goal post. So he never moved much in footy, but he was a brilliant player.
A lazy 50 grand.
I reckon it might have been 50. Old Rossi.
Let's give Rossi a call, mate.
But that's why they were very, very strong. And I should say it was all tongue in cheek.
I thought you were doing the books down there.
They were, and I paid my But they were very strong. They got a lot of guys up from Glenelg, I think, who just retired. And they went up. They were just super strong for many, many years. And unfortunately, they're really struggling this year. But the state of the game out there is very, very good. Very, very strong. And great games on Saturdays. Again, like the other leagues, and we went quickly with the Div 1s and the Div 3s, and right across the.
It's happening, isn't it?
It's happening really well.
All right, mate. Let's have a look at Langhorne Creek, Ando. The Cleggets, the Warrens, and the Follett families, mate. They had 18 relatives.
18 relatives playing
in two games up there
A's
on the
and
weekend.
B's. So we're looking at
probably
probably
the backbone of the club.
9 aside. So you got the B grade, the Bull Bouncers. There's 9 cousins playing.
So the Cleggets,
half the team.
The Cleggets, the Warrens, and the Follets.
A grade comes along.
They are the backbone.
They bounce the ball. There's 9 cousins playing in the A grade team. So that's half a team.
Not too bad.
Warrens are fantastic. I mean, of course, Benny Warren, who was a great player, captain for South Adelaide, went over to Nord, won a couple of phases, and he coached, of course, for Nord, and he coached them to a premiership as well. So, the Warrens are very, very talented. The whole family, and obviously. All the cousins are as well.
Yeah, well, another couple of decades, mate. They'll have the
whole team.
Both
back
teams
to back.
covered, won't they?
Yeah, they're going for that.
The Hawks are looking to go back to back too. They played Strathalbyn on the weekend. Both teams were undefeated with 2 wins, beaten by 113 points.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
I think the Hawks may have got a bit of Clarko in them down there.
I think
the Hawks could have a bit of Clarko down there.
I think they have. Yeah, I think they have. But I reckon the coach is pretty relaxed up there, though.
I would be if I was him, mate. I would be too, mate. I would be.
Lindsay Thomas.
Yep.
He's found his way to Yankalilla. Yeah, which is fantastic. But not only that, now he's captain coach out there.
Yep.
But not only that, they've picked up also. I just had to do a little bit of research on this.
He booted 9 goals.
Exactly. Got
9 goals.
Yeah.
Not too bad, mate. Make sure the captain and the coaches
he's
say
a class player.
Everything has to go through me.
But they've also picked up Xavier Gotch and Nick Little as well. So, of course, South Adelaide, and I would call them greats. They're a couple of fantastic players. So, but couldn't get over the Strathalbyn boys. So, yeah,
do you reckon, we're talking about how strong footy is at the moment, everywhere. Is it because some of the teams haven't been able to get enough players, haven't been able to financially get going? So there's been a surplus of really good players that have filtered back into some of these other teams?
Well, we were saying that, weren't we? At the start of the year, we were saying that when some of the associations closed, and obviously, and we're looking at, actually not just teams, but associations. Those players want to play somewhere, so they filter back into the Great Southern Leagues and they filter into the, the SNFL or the Amateur League. It just bolsters them up. And we're seeing that because, you look at the score line, you're talking to players saying, wow, that was a harder Div 3 game this year than it was last year. Plus only got 9 games. So they're throwing everything. They're just taking the gloves off and going for it because you don't get a return bout.
No. Well,
and that's what it's about.
I guess, mate, what made me think of was just saying, Gotch, Little, Thomas. You go, it's not a bad 3 at that.
That's great pickups. Yeah. Oh. And the other side, when you look at you know how important, footy is and netball for the communities. Now, 18 cousins are playing there. Just for maybe a Coke after a game and maybe a pie. That's all they want, and they put their heart and soul into their community down at Strathalbyn, and I think it's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, and I agree. A bit different to the blokes that host pacing, racing, and chasing. They come in, they got to have a schnitzel, they got to have a Coke, so they're not doing it for the love.
Poor old Rocky's account, and Brett Rocky's saying it's on my account. So I don't know what's going on at the moment, but yeah, a bit selfish.
All right, we'll take a break. Still plenty to come. We're back. Before the bounce, a couple of hecklers in here tonight. You kind of feel like you're getting that feel. It's nearly, I want to play a couple of cards, but I'm just going to let them go.
I've held you back a couple of times. I know that. They're heckling you.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of that going on at the moment.
Are tough, mate. They're very
tough. They are tough here at the Alma because Roo packs them in too, mate. So there's no free seats here with the Roo. I don't mind saying it. Hey, we've got to get to rumour or humour.
Yep.
So let me ask you this, mate. Is it time for Ken Hinkley to start worrying? So they had the 3-point win over Carlton, thanks to the Robbie Gray special.
Yep.
A minute and a half, he could have put it out a bit earlier. Yeah. And then they got pumped by St Kilda last week.
Look, I don't think so. I mean, it's one of those situations. They're on top of the table.
Yep.
They probably at the stage right now they can revalue over the last couple of weeks. Got out of jail, and then I think, look, Paddy Ryder was absolutely fantastic, and we were talking about Laddams, who's played 6-7 games. Yeah. We've got to remember that Lycett's not playing at the moment.
Yep.
And
Port have got some injuries.
It's going to be tough this week because, of course, Matty Gawn against Laddams because there's no Lycett.
Yep.
It's a really big loss.
Yeah.
Because, as you know, it starts from the engine.
Yep.
It starts from the engine, and they're saying that Port over the last couple of weeks, Boak hasn't fired. Gray hasn't fired. Their on ballers haven't fired. Well, guess what?
They're getting used to the ball.
They've got a good, second ruck.
Yep.
They haven't got their first ruck there, and it's certainly, I think it's changed their game a bit.
Yep. Yeah, mate. I was walking in here tonight, and a guy out the front said to me, "Oh, Port Adelaide, they're disgusting." And I said, "Hang on a minute, mate. Where are you on the ladder at the moment?" So what do you mean? I said, "Where are you?" So you're sitting on top. I said, I don't know if King can do much more than keep you on top, to be quite honest with you. So it's just funny how it turns so quickly.
Side. I mean, they had 2 terrific ruckmans. I mean, and Laddams worked his backside as we know, and he's great around the ground, but he's probably just lacking getting the number of tap he needs to.
Yeah, I think I'll put that one down to rumour. Now, that one's rumour.
It was interesting because you look at the Dream Team points.
Yep.
The top 8 of last week's games were all pretty much on ballers that Paddy was tapping down to.
Yep.
St Kilda players. Our first in the Dream Team points was 9th.
Okay.
So the top 8. So we got basically got smashed in that last quarter.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Who's influencing the game the most at the moment, mate? So there's rumours that Bulldogs, Caleb Daniels, the best spare player in the competition this year. So Nick Naitanui, not
well, look at Papley last week. I mean, he kicked what, 4 or 5 goals. Of course, Green kicked 5 last week as well. You look at Martin's back again. I think he had about 35 possessions. So, but then you look at you can't take Nat Nui's game as one of the best I've seen. Matty Gawn as well. You look at Paddy Ryder. So it's that balance. I mean, I would, if you're on baller, you want your number one ruckman. You want your number one ruckman feeding it down.
Okay, I'll make it a little bit easier for you. If I said to you right now, you can have any player. I've just given you the Adelaide Crows to coach, and you can pick any player you like, and you're going to get him. Who's your first pick?
The biggest change I've seen is when Port lost Lysart.
Yep.
And so for me, I want a ruckman.
All right, so Nick Naitanui is yours, or Maxi Gawn?
Oh, I've got to go Nick Naitanui.
Nick Nat?
I've got to go Nick Nat, yeah. I still think the ruckman in today's game is the most important because there are so many ball ups, because there's so many players around the ball. The umpire, is balling up time and time again, and you want your big man to tap it down your gob. I mean, Paddy Ryder, I think 30-something taps. You had Matty Gawn had 41.
Yeah.
It's
massive, isn't
so
it?
when you start looking at that, means they're tapping it down to their on ballers.
Direct to them.
It's a big loss for Port not dominating tap ruckman, and same with the Crows. And that's where both sides are. At the moment, they'll get Lysart back. Maybe this week or maybe the week after.
Yep.
So they just got to ride this little wave.
All right. Now, mate, I know you got your own segment. So I spoke to Rocky, the producer, and I said, listen, mate, can I have my own segment? Ando's got here. Surely I can get one. He said, all right, we'll give you one.
Yeah.
It's going to be, so I'm calling mine In a League of Your Own. In a League of Your Own. So
is that because you've been in 4 Olympics or 5 Olympics? And
I'm in a league of my own. Well, I was going to start with myself, mate. I thought, no, I'll give someone else a bit of a chance. So, okay, I won't be in it. Then, mate, no. I actually went with Johnny Platten. So I'll just give you a little overview of Platts. He's 57 Platts this year, so he's getting on a little bit. 113 games for Centrals, 258 he played with the Hawks. Magarey Brownlow medalist, represented South Australia. This is the one that I didn't know. 17 times he represented South Australia. He was an All-Australian 4 times. He's in the South Australian Hall of Fame, Australian Footy Hall of Fame, VFL, AFL Premiership, 86, 87, 88, 89. And we know he's down at Centrals doing some coaching, and he's always around players. So, look, the reason I bring him up, I got into an argument about 2 weeks ago, who's the best player through that era for South Australia, and it's always Robran and Ebert, who are 2 superstars of the game. And I said, I tell you what, no disrespect to those 2 at all, but I reckon it's Johnny Platten. I reckon he just slipped under the radar because he played most of his footy
got to be amongst
in Melbourne.
There's no question. I mean, one of my biggest thrills, was 1985. We played WA over in Perth, and I got to room with Johnny Platten, and had never really met John before. I played a state game with him in '84, and he said to me, "Ando, do you want to go for a walk down the mall?" And I'm thinking,
with the great Platts.
I'm walking down the mall with Johnny Platten. That exists. So we're going back to 1985, where he only probably had played maybe close to 100 games. It was a huge thrill for me, a huge thrill, and of course, his career then really speaks for itself as well. But even that block there, his career's been outstanding. He had to be in the top 5 all-time best players. There's no question.
I asked Platts, because he's so recognisable, with the long hair and stuff like that. I said, how do you go? Has there ever been a moment where you haven't been recognised? He said, I'll tell you a true story. He said, I'm sitting in Melbourne, he said, and there's this Spanish couple that are tourists come up and, obviously, the guy says, he doesn't know they're Spanish. And the guy says, can we grab a photo? So Platts says, yeah, of course. So Platts walks around, puts the arm around the girl, and the bloke's looking at him. He says, what are you doing? He said, no, I want you to take the photo. So Platts is so used to everyone asking him for a photo, he just got up, take the photo.
Oh, that's beautiful. And that's Johnny Platten. So that's him down on the
sorry about that, mate.
Just wonderful person.
All right, this is your bit, Ando. This is where you get to make mention. Make sure you view, and share.
Like and share. And I've got to actually thank, because we've got some nice comments, which was brilliant, and that was that drove some of the questions. And I've been asked to yell out Stella, so I've done that. So Stella. Thank you for your comment there. So I think I've done that okay.
I think you've covered them off pretty well.
Just share it and like it, pass on to your mates. It's a great segment. It is.
Jump on, have a bit of fun with us. If there's something you want us to talk about, jump on, share it, like.
Please do that. Just make a comment, say, Ando, Phil, bring this up, and we will.
Bring your best game next week.
That's it.
All right.
I think we need to.
Done. Any chance at all you'll get on that segment, mate, the In a League of Your Own? Because you've got a couple going for you. You've got a Magarey, mate. I reckon I might be able to squeeze you in a couple of weeks.
See, now you're taking the piss.
No.
That's all right. I don't mind. I'll end on that.
No, mate. The one McGarry's pretty good, isn't it?
Well,
a lot of blokes haven't got one.
But I think we're doing this for the hecklers and the live audience, because they're laughing. They're laughing louder than you.
I saw a bloke over there eat a schnitzel without cutting it just before. So I reckon we can get him in the hot dog championship in America, mate. 79 hot dogs in 3 minutes. Anyway, time for us to go. Hope you've enjoyed the show, everyone. Bye for now.